Work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go. Hard work, work. Everybody doing it right. Hard work, work. That's what they say. Hard work, work. Earn my pay. Hard work, do it every day. Hard work, get up out of 2:45. Hard work, ready to go and earn my pay. Hard work, put my boots on and lace them up. Hard work, another day to work. Hard work, that's what they say. Hard work, I earn my pay. Hard work, don't rough, move on now. Hard work, got to go, make the call. Hard work, banging on the doors in the morning. Hard work, get up and let's go to work. Hard work, you pack up the shoes. Hard work, you load them up. Hard work, manifest. Hard work, you gotta do it right. Hard work, and here we go. Hard with the sun, I'm ready to rock. Hard work, I'm earning my pay. Hard work, that's what they say. Hard work, we can win on out. We gotta go and do the job. Load them up on the airplane. In the early morning rain. Hard work, that's what they say. Hard work, let me hear. Everybody on the plane. Gotta sit them on down. Hard work, the engines are on. Hard work, the mission is go. Hard work, that's what they say. Hard work, I do it for play. Hard work, I earn my pay. Hard work, we're on the go. Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, there you go. Hard work, everybody doing it right. Hard work, that's what they say. Hard work, earn my pay. Hard work, do it every day. Get up out of 2:45. Ready to go and earn my pay. Put my boots on and lace them up. Another day to work. Hard work, that's what they say. Hard work, I earn my pay. Don't rough, move on now. Got to go, make the call. Banging on the doors in the morning. Get up and let's go to work. Hard work, you pack up the shoes. Hard work, you load them up. Hard work, manifest. Hard work, you gotta do it right. Hard work, and here we go. With the sun, I'm ready to rock. Hard work, I'm earning my pay.
It's coronavirus going on. It's in the water.
Everybody had like 2 hours to do all their stuff, and I'm like, I'm not rushing. I don't know, not doing it.
But we're all going to cook, right?
I'll most likely go to Vegas. I guess.
Yeah, and we're all going to meet you at Vegas.
I hope I'm still good for Vegas.
Yeah, just let me know.
Maybe.
This right here. Nice. So they can hear us talk live on Facebook through the music, but we're not broadcasting live yet on our face.
Oh, okay.
So this coin,
you pack up the shoes. Hard work, you know sit them on down. Hard work, hard work. The engines are on. Hard work, hard work. The mission is go. Hard work, hard work. That's what they say. Hard work, hard work. I do it for play. Hard work, hard work. I earn my pay. Hard work, hard work. We're on the go. Hard work, hard work, hard work. Hard work, hard work. Hard work, work. There you go. Hard work, work. Everybody doing it right. Hard work, work.
Today's Army faces challenges that reach far beyond the traditional battlefield. With a consistently evolving warfare landscape, the enemy's reach is no longer limited to geographical constraints. As one of the most technologically advanced nations in the world, our sophisticated weapon systems, satellites, navigation, and aviation systems are reliant upon an infrastructure of vast stores of information in networked computer-based systems and databases. Our adversaries are attacking and attempting to exploit our networks around the clock, searching for vulnerabilities to jeopardize our mission and disrupt our way of life. Just one stealthy piece of malicious code could have devastating and costly effects. The Army relies on intelligent, highly skilled servicemen and women to support and defend these crucial and complex systems against threats both foreign and domestic.
Protecting information is very essential to the Army now, and it's going to be a very important field, and it's a growing field.
As a soldier working in military occupational specialty, cyber operations specialist, you will serve on the front lines of the cyberspace battlefield, enabling and executing both defensive and offensive cyberspace operations, ensuring the freedom of maneuver within the cyberspace domain, and denying that same advantage to our adversaries.
The way the world operates today with technology, you don't have to fight somebody one-on-one. You don't have to follow that traditional kinetic warfare. Instead, you can exploit the fact that one computer system has a vulnerability.
After completing 10 weeks of basic combat training, you will complete 2 phases of advanced individual training. Phase 1 takes place over 25 weeks at the Corey Station Naval Technical Training Center in Pensacola, Florida, followed by 20 weeks of Phase 2 training at the U.S. Army Cyber School at Fort Gordon, Georgia. The Army will train you in a number of valuable skills, such as performing cyber attacks and defenses, cyber intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance actions on specified systems and networks, conducting network terrain audits, penetration testing, collecting and analyzing basic digital forensics data and software threat analysis, to react to cyberspace events and employ cyberspace defense infrastructure capabilities, and to provide incident response impact assessments and produce network security posture assessment. You will also learn to analyze computer system and network architecture and determine and implement exploitation and defensive methods.
We get to be on the cutting edge of a lot of technology and a lot of tactics that haven't really been exposed inside of the civilian industry. They may not get to see the things that we're using for several years.
Due to the highly sensitive nature of this MOS, qualifying soldiers must meet top-secret sensitive compartmented information access eligibility requirements, as well as pass a counterintelligence scope polygraph. The unparalleled training and experience gained while serving in this MOS can prepare you for a wealth of opportunities in the civilian workforce. The skills you will acquire are in high demand.
We get an opportunity to work with the industry a lot. We always get an opportunity to see what our civilian counterparts are doing as far as defending their networks, and these people remember who you are.
Join the Army's most technologically advanced career field as one of an elite team of world-class cyber warriors committed to combating our nation's ever-present and growing cyberspace threat. Military Occupational Specialty, Cyber Operations Specialist.
Welcome, everybody. We are live with another Soldier of the Hour. I have a very, very special great guest, my old chief. We have WO1 Miss Boyle coming live to us from Fort Polk, Louisiana, 3rd Brigade, 10th Mountain. Her job in the Army is electronic warfare technician, or if you want to put the cyber in there, cyber electronic warfare technician. So you don't necessarily do the cyber aspect of it, more the electronic portion, and we'll go more into that. But before I do, thank you so much for joining me for the next hour to talk about you and your job.
Thank you, Sergeant Anderson. It's really a pleasure to be here and to share my experiences with everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And before we go, I just want to let all our viewers know that if you have a comment on what this job is, what it entails, or as we were talking, we're going to talk about her job, how she got her schooling paid for. She's done a lot in her career. If you have a general question about the job or the military, leave your comments below so we can answer them while we're discussing this, okay? We want our audience to be engaged with us. So, Chief, I call you Chief, which is the wrong verbiage to use. It should be Miss, right, as a WO1. But I do have a bad habit calling you Chief. So I will refrain from misleading the public and call you Miss Boyle. Would you please let us know about a little bit of your Army career?
So my Army career started back in 2007. I was actually in a 2-year civil engineering program in Idaho State University. And it's always been a dream of mine to go into the military. When I was young, I always wanted to do basic training. Don't ask me why. Not really sure. It just kind of sounded fun to go through obstacle courses and whatnot. So, like I said, I was in the middle of a 2-year program, and I was like, I'm not getting any younger. I might as well do it. And I was, 22. So went to the recruiter's office, and they're like, hey, next month. And I ended the semester on Friday, and I shipped out for basic training on Monday. So very tight timeline for me. I joined as a military police officer. My first duty station from there was in Hawaii. I did a 15-month combat deployment to Iraq, and then 15 months later did a 12-month combat deployment to Afghanistan. While I was there, I found out about electronic warfare, and a system we used was a Thor 3. And this was supposed to help with the radio-controlled IEDs that they had there. So it was of interest to me of what this job would entail. So I did a little bit more research, and it worked with the spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum. So I didn't really know what that was, but we use it in a day-to-day life. So the more I read about it, I had a battle buddy of mine kind of talk me into it. So I ended up and that was, I finally reclassed to, it was 29 Echo at the time in 2012. Went to Fort Sill for that training, and then, went to Fort Campbell, did some of my positions and everything there. When I got stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, I had a warrant officer that he was telling me more about what the warrant officers did in our actual field. So that even got me more interested to try to help build up this this whole electronic warfare because it was new to the Army. So again, I should say, because the Army did away with it and came back. So I wanted to help grow the MOS and grow the electronic warfare and what it all entails. So I decided to go for warrant officer, and I picked that up in 2018, and I've been a warrant officer ever since.
Yeah, a lot of, not maybe jumping around, but you hit a lot of spectrum. You showed, you joined the Army for one thing. You saw something that you liked that was cool. You changed your job, and then you're like, I could do so much better in this job and change it and grow it. And you're like, I'm going to be a technical expert in this job. And you went from enlisted to officer. So for people who don't know, there's two spectrums in the military. We have an enlisted side, all the soldiers, the grunts, that makes the mission. And then you have your technical side, which is your officers. Now, warrant officers is more of a technical specialist in that job field, where an officer, they lead and train soldiers. Also, well, I wouldn't say train, but they lead soldiers, make the planning, and do all the work behind the scenes. You need both of them to operate, but those are the two different. So you went from one spectrum to the other spectrum, and now you're changing or trying to change for the better your job field.
Right.
So that is crazy. And you start off in Hawaii. I love Hawaii.
It was a good first duty station.
I know, right? Mine was Korea. Ugh, it's scary.
Yeah.
I never left my hometown, so to go into a foreign country, I was scared, but it was a great experience. But enough about me. You mentioned a couple things I want to highlight during our conversation, and I want to reiterate to our viewers: ask your comments. This is, this is what we're here for. I know about her job a little bit because I worked with her, but you might not. So ask your question. Doesn't matter how small or insignificant you might think. Please ask your questions. So that was a quick turnaround for you to go talk to your recruiter to the time you ship. Usually it doesn't happen that way. You must have no law violations, no medical. You must have all your ducks in a row, and then wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
It was very quick. I was actually going from one office to the waiting room area, and in mid-step, they were like, Boyle, and I turned my head, and they're like, May or October, and I just looked over, I said, May, and I kept walking, and I went and sat down, and I didn't realize, it was really quick, because I sat down, one of the other girls there, she's like, what was that? And I was like, I guess I'm leaving in May. And then when they finally called me back, they were like, I was like, so what date is that supposed to be? And it was I literally had 30 days to finish my college semester and ship out. So it was a very quick turnaround.
Were you comfortable with that?
Honestly, I didn't want to wait. I felt if I waited till October, I would have second guessed it. Am I making the right decision? But at that point in time, it is what I wanted to do. And I'm actually very happy that I made that decision, because all of the effects afterwards have really helped shape my career. And I think if I would have waited, I would have just kind of lollygagged around, I guess you could say. So I'm really glad I made that quick turnaround decision.
Okay. What made you join the Army versus any other branch?
Actually, it's really funny because I come from a long history of Navy family. I do have a grandfather. He was in the Navy, then Army, then Navy, and that's about the most Army I have in my family's history. I have an uncle that retired after 30 years in the Navy. So I have another uncle that was a Marine, and I didn't want to go in the Navy. I didn't want to learn how to swim. I like the ground. So it was more like of the boot camp that I always saw, like in the commercials and everything, and the obstacle courses that I found more interesting. And I figured Army, why not?
Right? It's a giant jungle gym for grown-ups. How cool is that?
It is. I've actually, sometimes you're like, I really don't want to do that today, but once you're into it, it's kind of fun. I feel like a little kid sometimes. So I mean, I'm young at heart, so why not?
Right? Now, if you guys don't know, Miss Boyle, she's very short.
I'm 5'3", so not very.
So
I
when
hold
you
my
do go
own.
on the jungle gyms, you need a boost.
I hold my own. I can jump, kind of. I might need a little hand every once in a while, but I get stuff done.
That's true. You are a fierce person to be reckoned with, so I would not mess with you. Okay, so what made you choose 31 Bravo, which is military police, in the beginning? What interests you to pick that job?
Once again, when I was younger, I had many different things I always looked into. I've always wanted to go into law enforcement, police officer, so why not military police? Kill two birds with one stone. I can get my military and police all in the same shot. So I really didn't sit down to talk to my recruiters about any other jobs that were available or what was a good fit for me. So I just chose military police.
Okay. Are you happy with it?
I was. I actually, even to this day, I still miss the camaraderie. You make a very close-knit family with the MP Corps. Just the camaraderie all together. You learn a lot. You have a job both garrison as well as deployed. So, I mean, you're always constantly doing something. You're always learning stuff. You are engaged with the public. You help out. There's a community. You also help police around. It sounds kind of weird, but like, hey, there's a lost dog. So they would call us out. Okay. But you can go on a lot of community interaction, and I liked helping a lot of the different people on post when they needed it as well. So, but I would say more than anything, the camaraderie with my teammates, my squad members, and in the all-out platoon as well.
And how long were you doing that? Like 4 or 5 years, 6 years?
I was a MP for 5.5 years total.
Okay. Were you able to do any of your NCO development training schools during that time?
I went to, actually back then it was called Warrior Leader Course, but now it's called Basic Leader Course. So I did do that. When I transitioned over, I had to go back to school for reclass, and that was considered my AIT/Advanced Leader course now, because they didn't have it for our MLS. So as an NP, I did your basic leader course.
Okay. So for our viewers, every time you go up, well, I wouldn't say every time, but when you hit certain milestones in your rank system, the Army wants to give you more schooling to become a better, more fit, and understanding, more technical leader. So there's programs out there that will mirror your job or give you a better grasp on how to be a better leader. And these are some of the platforms you have to hit before you go to the next rank. So that's what we're discussing. And I was just curious with you, how far advanced in your career did you get before you transferred over?
I was actually a sergeant promotable before I went to reclass school. So by the actual timeline, you could say that I was before my actual timeline, because usually the NCO's E5 would be at 5 years. Well, I made it in 3 years. I had my promotable status to E6 at my 5-year mark. So I was before my timeline on the actual promotions and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any schooling during that time frame? I remember you mentioned something about maybe finishing your associate degree. Did you have that done before you entered?
I did not. I actually, between deployments, because my first 4 years was actually basic AIT and 2 combat deployments within my first 4 years. Between my 2 combat deployments, I started college. So it was between training and deployments. I didn't do schooling just because I didn't know what the connectivity was, and our schedule, it just didn't allow me to actually continue college during that time. But once I got back, I still continued on with my schooling as well.
Did you have to pay anything out of pocket when you went to school?
No. So the Army has the tuition assistance program, and I looked heavily into that because I did leave college to join the military, and I knew I wanted to still strive to earn my degree. So I looked into what they had. I did not want to touch my GI Bill at the time. So they do have tuition assistance. So the tuition assistance is 16 credit hours or $4,500 every fiscal year. So if you break that down on the colleges, that's roughly 5 classes a year. So it, like, depending on what school, those schools can be like either like 5 to 8 weeks. I went through American Military University, and those classes are 8 weeks long. So in reality, I was taking like one class every other month. So like when I could fit it in. If there was a training event, I altered my class schedule so I didn't overlap, just so I could focus on training. And I just continued doing my schooling with that tuition assistance. And right now, I actually just finished up with my bachelor degree. And 5 years ago, I finished up with my associate degree, and both of those degrees are paid for through tuition assistance. So I have no student loans. I have not touched my Montgomery GI Bill, and I have 2 degrees paid for by the Army.
On those giant accomplishments. I'm still working on trying to do my first degree. Same boat.
Yes, it takes a little bit of time, but I mean, if you just keep at it, because I mean, I broke it down, and like my first 8 years, I finally got my associate, and you're like, wow, that's a long time. But I would say I actually physically worked on it about 3 years out of like the 8, just because of my schedule. I already have a job. So schooling was to enhance my career after I retire out of the military.
1 second. This is what happens when we're live. Brian's Easton's in there if you want to talk to him. Yeah. So I'm in the office conducting business as I'm talking to you. So there's sometimes some unexperienced people coming and saying hi. So we have the Marine Corps over here saying hi. So I told them to go in the office. So not to be mean, there's another recruiter in there, but no, so I procrastinate. That's my problem. Like, I could have my degree done years ago, but I'm lazy. I hate school. I'd rather do something fun, jump out of airplanes, than sit behind a desk and do a paper. Yes. So he's looking over here. I'm looking at him.
What are you doing?
It's like, oh, you're looking over my shoulder. But no, that's great. And oh, by the way, for our viewers, you guys are having a storm in Louisiana, right? There's a pretty bad rainstorm going on.
Not currently. There was about 2 hours ago. It was raining pretty bad here, so I think we're over it tonight, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so finish your degree. I'm sorry, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but I just want to really quickly hit on 2 things before we move over to your reclass side. You did mention that you had 2 deployments. One was 15 months. Back in the day, they were extremely long. Now they're like 9 months now. But you said you had a 15-month and a 12-month. As a 31 Bravo military police, how much did you utilize what you learned in the police academy in a foreign country, or were you mainly on the FOB, the garrison environment?
So no. So when I was deployed as a military police officer, we were actually outside the wire daily. So we actually did key leader engagements. We actually trained the Iraqi and Afghanistan police officers to conduct searches. We did our own little classes. So whatever we learned, we actually utilized and taught them. So they could do searches, they could do cordons, they can do, learn how to search a person, a vehicle, a house. We did a lot of presence patrol there. We would go on different missions with them, whether it be dismounted or mounted in the vehicles, and we would just do a lot of key leader engagements to say, hey, what do you need from us? How can we help you? And try to make their infrastructure stronger in their military police, in their police.
Mm-hmm. You set you up for success for what you were doing down there?
Yes, it did. Yes.
Okay, and you felt comfortable with all your training and all your experience to do what you had to do and come home safely?
Yes, and like I said, the reason, like, that camaraderie comes into place, especially there, I would get out of my vehicle and go inside the police station and, engage with the locals, their police officers when like our, squad leaders were talking to their station commanders. They would be in there and, we would just go in, have conversations with any of the other police officers that were there at the time. And, my battle buddies, my squad members had my back whenever I was in there. So we could actually engage with the locals. And it wasn't really that scary because I had the knowledge and we trained extensively before both deployments to make us ready for those deployments.
Okay. Was your chain of command supportive while you were going to school? Do they say, no, you can only focus on work? Do they allow any time off for you to get any type of paperwork done, any reports due out?
No, so our chain of command, I would say, because I had 2 different companies at that time, all of them were pretty supportive. They say, hey, if you want to do it, go for it. I mean, they weren't really there to stop you by any means. Like, you have to put in your own legwork. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're not there to do it for you. If you want it, you're going to do it and accomplish it on your own accord. But there was no, like, don't do it. There was just like, hey, we know the mission came first. So our training came first. Our deployments came first. So if I could fit it in, I would. But I just knew our training schedule and I knew what I could handle. And I would rather, I was there for a reason. I was there for my mission and, to do all my tasks that I needed to do because that was my job. The schooling was an added bonus because it is a privilege. It's not a right. But my chain of command was very supportive of all of my schooling that I've ever done.
Okay, that's great. More leadership like that would take care of their soul. I'm not saying there's leadership out there that won't, but depending on your pace of what you guys are doing, some people will have a faster pace schedule than others. So it just depends on, like you said, knowing your schedule, knowing what you can handle, and execute from there. All right, so hopefully I'm not jumping around, but you did most of your time in Hawaii. I'm reading your bio a little bit. Hawaii in Campbell and Bliss.
Yes.
When did you switch over to your enlisted side of your MOS training?
I reclassed in 2012. So I went from Hawaii, I reclassed, and then I got stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So while I was there, I actually had the opportunity to go to the air assault course. So I did that, got that knocked out of the way. So I'm qualified to rappel out of helicopters.
Yay!
So that was another one with the obstacle course that was fun. Very, very demanding, but it was fun at the same time. It was a good challenge.
Awesome. Let me real quick. So the reason why I'm looking down, I'm looking at all the live comments, and we have a comment from your MP days from a Colton. As an MP, what are the jobs difference between being deployed and not?
So actually, a lot of it is the same. So when you're on garrison, like the MPs, it's almost like a regular police officer. You go on your patrols, like your daily patrols and whatnot. So you'd show up for work, you patrol the community, you respond to calls, you do your PT, and that was pretty much your life here stateside. Downrange, it was a little bit different. You still actually did patrols. You still used that MP knowledge, but you were actually helping train the police force there. So that would be like one of the key differences between deployment and garrison is you were actually teaching them how to build up their infrastructure and how to do that policing in their own community, where stateside, we actually did the community policing.
Okay. Just to let you know what garrison is, we have garrison, we have the field, and we have deployment. So garrison is the active community where all the companies are, the armors, the shopettes, the major malls, gas stations, home life area. So we consider that all garrison. And then when we talk about the field, it's the natural habitat of a wilderness. Some of areas will have the ranges, which is, cut into that wildness to make ranges to shoot, either for wheeled vehicles, unmanned. Down. My words today are not working. On your feet, so with your 9mm or your M4 or any other, non-vehicle fired weapons or artillery. So it could be a range of different things that you're going to the field for. So you have two environments when we talk about garrison or field, and then obviously you heard deployment could be a combat deployment or a deployment. I went to Korea is considered a deployment, but it's not a combat deployment. So just to give you guys an understanding, when we say garrison, that's what it is. And then you mentioned PTs, physical training, not PE, where it's physical education. So we do physical training in the Army called PT. Sorry, I have to explain some of the acronyms that we use. We have almost another language that we talk, and it's hard to let a civilian know what we're trying to say. So sorry for that interruption.
No, you're fine.
So we have another question from Claire, but we're going to wait before I answer that. So I'm not ignoring you, Claire. I'm just waiting till the right time to answer that question, okay? So again, to our audience, if you have a question, leave them down below. We will answer them, I promise you. You saw the MOS, you investigated, you liked it, you reclassed. How hard was reclassing? And before you say that, was it difficult to change your job? Like, was your unit supportive of you? Did they make you do all the work yourself? Or were they like, hey, yes, this will keep you in the military if you stay in and do a job that you love to do?
So I actually still had a couple more years before I could re-enlist. And at the time, I just went to the retention person. So it's almost like you are a recruiter. The retention people try to get you to stay in the military. So I actually was talking to our retention NCO at the time, and I was like, hey, what about this? And at the time, our MOS is brand new as of 2009. And this was in the fall of 2010 is when I heard about it. So like I said, brand new MOS, didn't know much about it. So he had to ask his higher up, like, hey, what is this MOS? What do I need to do? At the time, it was called the BEAR program. It was a different program where I had to meet certain qualifications. And at the time, I had to have Algebra 1. And that was a requirement at the time to get you into this MOS. So I did the packet, and I actually had to extend to meet the service obligation of the school. And then from there, I was just waiting on the school date. And because the school, I was actually deployed at the time, I did this. My school date wasn't until 2012. It was July 2012, and I signed up for it in December of 2010. So there was actually a backlog for this MOS because it's brand new. People were trying to get into it. So, I mean, I still had 6 more months on a deployment anyway. So I just go back to Hawaii and keep continuing to do my MP duties and wait. Yes, continue to serve.
So I pulled this wrong because I pulled this off of GoArmy.com. For this job, for the 17 Charlie, used to be a 29 Echo, electronic warfare specialist, your AIT, your advanced individual training, is like 40-something weeks. You have 2 phases.
No. So 17 Charlie is different. So
Okay.
we started out in 29 Echo. We are now 17 Echo. Because we now fall under Cyber Command. 17 Charlie is a different MOS from a 17 Echo.
Okay. I looked up the wrong one.
Yes.
I'll just put my paper right there.
So right now, so our schoolhouse is changing. Before, when we were 29 Echo, we were under Field Artillery. So Field Artillery picked us up because we did a lot. They were kinetic effects. We were non-kinetic effects. That means you could see them, bullets and everything. You can't really see what we do. We are non-kinetic. So we don't actually do damage in the form of, blowing up buildings and whatnot. So we were closest to them, so they put us under Field Artillery, and we became 29 Echoes. As of 1 October 2018, they moved us under Cyber Command. It was a new command come up with the Army came up with, and we moved to 17 Echoes. So your 17 series is all under your Cyber Command as well.
Mhm.
And with that, the schoolhouse is moving from Fort Sill, Oklahoma to Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Mhm.
So they are also doing the curriculum. I believe, so the class used to be 9 weeks long. It is now, I'm tracking about 28 weeks long.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that. That's the last thing I heard about it. So like when the soldiers go and actually become a 17 Echo, it's now 28 weeks long. So they have extensively put more work into this MOS to get us up to speed and whatnot.
Mhm. Because just looking at some of your certifications, now again, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm looking at my notes, so this is what I'm looking at. It's a lot of computer CompTIA Security Plus, CompTIA Network Plus, CEH, stuff that I don't know. I know how to deal with computers, but you get all these tech certifications that I know that are very expensive just to obtain. And it's showing AIT a total of 45 weeks long with everything.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be more on the cyber realm. They're actually dealing with computers. Those are like the IT certificates. As a 17 Echo, we are allowed to actually do those classes as well because we are also more like liaison of the cyber, but we're more of the electronic warfare side, which we deal with the spectrum and the electromagnetic spectrum and like radio waves and frequencies versus an actual cyber, which is computers.
Okay, so when you say spectrum, can you give us an example what a spectrum could be?
Infrared cameras, microwaves, the different waves, like your cell phone puts off electromagnetic waves. So it's very diverse in a way, and yeah.
So no, because we're speaking Spanish right now, I have an idea. It's just that if you can't see it, smell it, or taste it, same thing like with our chemicals, it's hard to get a grasp of it and how bad it can be.
Right. It is very hard because a lot of people don't understand. They can't see it. It's not a bullet, so they can't see it. They don't know what our damage is until after the fact. So, like these waves, it's like a radio to another radio. It's line of sight. So, like your cell phone, how does that work? It also deals with like Bluetooth technology. It gives off an electronic emission. Can't see, and that's why it's a very hard thing to grasp, especially for people that want to see the destruction that they do. Whereas ours, that's why it's non-kinetic. You can't really see the destruction that you actually do or how you are implementing what you do, because like we can deny the communications of our enemy by like the jamming ratio, like noise floor, you like raise your noise floor so they can't hear you. So in other words, if you're in a room and I'm talking this normal and the noise, like you have a lot of other people in the room and their noise is drowning you out, they have now denied you the ability to communicate because you have to go talk over them.
Okay. So what does your workstation look like? Like, what do you do to do this? Is it just a computer, or do you have other tools in the trade?
So right now I can go on like the secret, like our SIPR, and then it's regular internet as well. We do have a couple systems that we are trying to get our hands on, I should say. A lot of units don't have the equipment because our program of records and the different equipment we have is still up and coming and being kind of bought from the military. Yeah. So in the civilian sector, you're going to have more of a diverse equipment you can use. As for military, where they're still getting like the funding involved and everything, so it's kind of a slow rolling MOS to get equipment in, but we're slowly getting in and proving like, hey, we do work. This is how we are effective. We need this equipment to do our jobs effectively and to help you do your job.
All right, so I'm going to go back to my, now, perfect opportunity. I'm going to go back to my live audience. I had a question from Claire Ray. Claire asked, what do you do on average workday entails? Now, I want to caveat on that, okay? So what do you do day to day? Now, what do you do at Garrison versus our field environment? Because real quick, I'm going down a rabbit hole. I saw you and your NCO work out in JRTC when we were doing our training up to certify the brigade. And you guys had some cool toys, I call them toys, but they're tools. And you guys were stopping drones, but mainly we saw you guys behind a computer. So can you please tell us a little bit both what you do in the field and then what you do in Garrison?
So in Garrison, we are more in charge of training on the equipment that we do have, and then direction finding, I guess you could say, is what we do more in Garrison. We try to get the lobs. By that, it's, say, your radio station. So we have different equipment that we can actually test out, and we can identify the actual frequency and where it's coming from on Garrison side. Because of FCC regulations, we cannot deny anything stateside. So it's very hard for us to actually completely do our job in the United States because it is illegal to do it. Now, deployment, on the other hand, we can request assets. So we are actually working with the Navy and Air Force. We request assets, and whatever the mission is, they can help us with their air platforms, like a compass call, which is what the Army uses, and a growler is what, sorry, the Air Force uses a compass call, and the growler is what the Navy uses. And they would be like above, overhead, helping deny or locate different communications or different radar assets that the enemy has. So Garrison-wise, there's not a lot for us to do. Our job is mostly deployment-wise.
Okay. And that's where you're kind of reacting quicker and faster with some of the training that you do, and then you just have to troubleshoot when something happens because you don't get the proper feedback like you would here in the U.S.
Right.
Which sounds like it makes it very difficult to train.
We can do certain things here. Like I said, we do have equipment that we can actually identify different frequencies and we can geolocate them. So other than that, that's about all we can do stateside. But there is useful training in that because we are showing other people like, hey, if we can geolocate where this person is at because of what they are emitting, like on their radios, we can actually tell like the infantry or the cavalry or the field artillery guys, hey, that's where the enemy is at. And they can either go blow them up in place, they can go arrest them, they can go, do whatever they need to do to accomplish the mission.
Okay. I have another live question from Dave. What are your thoughts on electronic warfare teams that are being developed?
So I definitely agree with them. I actually do have experience with electronic warfare teams. I did an NTC rotation, which was at Fort Irwin, where our whole brigade went there for a rotation. And the way we implemented it was very awesome, in my opinion. We got to actually conduct our job. We got to go out in our different teams. We worked together with the cavalry because that's who we were attached to at the time. And we were on the front line with them, and we actually were able to geolocate where the enemy was at, what the frequencies they were using, and we passed that back to our brigade size element, which was like way far back in the rear, and they actually could do like a call for fire and like essentially like blow up in place what that was. And in reality, we took out, notionally, so it's all fake anyway, but we got to take out like their town, or well, not town, their enemy location. So it actually worked, and I'm a big fan, and we're actually implementing that in Army, pretty much Army wide, is those electronic warfare teams.
Now, when you think a team, what does that consist of? Is that consist of platoon, 2-man, 3-man?
So the teams right now, I actually worked in a 2-man team. So it was me and another electronic warfare person. So the teams are supposed to be a minimum of 2 people, but in reality, we want them to be 3 people. And it'll be in a squad pretty much. So you'll actually have 3 different teams. So that's a total of 9 people. So if you have that, you can go out different areas and you can be in 3 different locations trying to identify and geolocate where those emitters are coming from.
Interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought, because I've only seen you at a brigade echelon.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
So,
I didn't know you existed until you showed up. I'm like, hi, what I do?
So,
okay.
Right. So those would be like the team level. We're transitioning them into our military intelligence company because they will actually work hand in hand with our SIGINT intelligence personnel. So at brigade level, what I would do is I help plan where these teams are going to be on the battlefield and who they will be better with. If the cavalry is out front, I want them with them. But if an infantry size element goes and does whatever they want to in a town, we can move that team to that, to the infantry guys to actually see what's in that town and to geolocate and just to see what's there as well, just to observe. At brigade level, we also do, like I said, I would actually do our request to help have our sister elements, the Air Force or Navy, whoever, to get us those air assets because we work jointly. So we need those air assets to help us with those missions as well. And that would be particularly what I would actually do at the brigade level.
Okay, now when you talk about your team going with the cavalry or the infantry, when they go with that group, team, or company, when they deploy in that setting, what type of equipment will that individual or that team have?
So right now we are working mostly with, they're called VROD VMAX. They are more for geolocation. So that's pretty much what they will have right now.
Okay. Where do you see your MOS going? Sky the limit, or is it so new technology that we haven't really looked at yet? Because I feel like you guys are between intelligence and S6, and S6 is signal. So I feel like you guys are like in the middle, and you're trying to find a home between one or the other. You're so new.
There is actually a lot of a technology coming out and you can actually purchase a lot of this stuff. Software-defined radios, the software changes constantly. You just have to update the software, and you can actually start to geolocate yourself. And you can listen. So if you have this device, you can order all of the parts off of Amazon and
What?
Yes.
Wait, tell me more.
Right? So like I said, it's software defined. So if the software updates, all you have to do is go on and get the updated software, plug it into your phone, and you can watch it on your own screen, and you can pick up the different radios. Like if you wanted to go outside, you could actually pick up a radio station. So that frequency, like the whatever hertz, like if you have your favorite radio station, like 106.2, you can actually find that on this and you can listen to it. So there are, like, the emerging technology with this is so vast and so advanced that sometimes it's almost hard to keep up with, because it's almost like, hey, we're going to pin this down to what we want it to look like, and it changes. So we're trying to get a lot of more equipment, and it's just kind of broad in a way. So you want your software defined radios, you want to do this VROD or VMAX, and then we have new equipment coming out on a vehicle, so it'll actually help us look at the training area and like your emission control, and help with that if you have too much emissions coming out from your radios or your antennas and everything. So it's a lot of technology coming out. So it's a growing field, and we're only going to get bigger from here.
Do you think it's that important to have this type of MOS in the Army?
I do, because cyber is a new thing. It's a new threat, and I mean, how many times do you hear about people getting hacked? That's what we kind of help do. We're kind of on the border between that cyber and the electronic warfare part, like the actual portion of that. So this actually will help us out a lot. And if we can deny our enemies a communication, then they can't properly plan or execute what they want against us as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you're going to do some training here out of state. Where are you going to go again? Somewhere in Colorado?
I'm going actually to Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado.
And what kind of, are you allowed to tell us what kind of training you're doing?
Yeah, it's called Space Cadre Course. So it's pretty much just learning I actually have it written down because it's a lot. It's pretty much a fundamental understanding of space concepts and capabilities to support the military in general. So you're talking about like your satellite communications, your GPS, weather satellites, and various space information from there.
So anything that tracks or emits a transmission, you need to have an understanding on how that happens.
Yes.
Wow. Again, I got to see it. Well, no, I don't really got to see it. Not my job. But I'm chemical. Got that VX gas you got to watch out for. But anyways, it's hard to wrap my head around it just because I'm not educated enough. But it sounds very technical, and it sounds like, you know, people have the fear of the unknown. I'm not fearful of it. It's just that I want to make sure that I'm protected. So for us to have this in our military, and you being on the team, I feel a little bit more protective on, you know, when we go out and do our training. I know it sounds corny, but, you know, at least somebody there with some brains that can do the job and do it well.
Well,
what does this job set you up? So I know I just cut you off. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Bad habit.
That's all right.
Everybody. So sorry. What does your job set you up? Now you have two things to fall back on. You have your military police experience, but then you also have all this technology experience. Have you thought about retirement and then what you're going to do with your retirement?
So yes, I have 13 years in, so I have a good 7 years left. I've actually looked at different companies that do electronic warfare, and they build the systems for the Navy has different contracts with these businesses. So like Raytheon, Booz Allen Hamilton, those are two good companies that I could potentially go and work for in the electronic warfare position, testing out different systems for the Army, trying to sell the military the equipment. So there's a lot to fall back on. Plus you have the entire civilian sector, which is they are more easily advanced because they have like a little more funding, I should say. To get a lot of the funding for the military, you have to go through a lot of hoops. So on the civilian sector, there's a lot more opportunity electronic warfare wise, especially with systems and the technology coming out and everything.
Do you feel you're ahead of the game because you have all the years experience, you have the certification, the credentialing, versus somebody trying to do this straight from college?
You know, there are different college degrees now that you can go straight into it, but I feel like I've actually seen it work, and I have more experience actually working with it. So I think for experience wise, I do have the experience. Somebody coming out of college, they may have the fundamentals, but if they don't necessarily see it or they have never experienced it, it's going to be a little bit different. And being in the military, I know how you can implement it with these different maneuver elements. So I can help kind of speak the military jargon, you know, like PT, physical fitness, you know, it's the different jargon talk as well, once you have that down. So I think experience is what helps drive it as well.
Okay. So we're starting to come towards our end of our interview. I do have a couple questions from later on our week that we were advertising this MOS, this job in the Army. But before I ask you those closing out questions, I want to talk about a little bit about your personal life. how much free time do you have? Because it sounds like, it's a very technical job and you have to keep your nose in the books. Do you have a lot of free time?
I actually do. So, time is very valuable to me. So when I'm at work, I like to, work. I put in the work there so that way I can go home on time and get everything I want to accomplish during the day. So that way at night I can get off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and have my whole afternoon or whole evening, to relax, hang out with people, friends, family, whatever. Our weekends are there. Yeah, we do have like type of a staff duty where we have to go in and do like a 24-hour duty at times, but it's not every weekend. It's sometimes not even every month. It's kind of sporadically there. So as for time off, I do have my fair share of time off.
Okay. And you have, you're not, obviously it sounds like you have a secret clearance. You have a top secret clearance?
Yes, for this job, you actually have to have a top secret.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud. Does that prevent, I'm trying to think of what a civilian might ask you for this job in time. If you guys have a question, help me out here and ask her questions about her job, you guys. Come on. Because you have a top secret clearance, does that limit you from traveling outside the country anywhere?
So not really. I just have to inform the proper people that I am going to travel, as well as it doesn't matter if you have a top secret, or whatnot in the military. You actually have to go through your S2, which is your intel people. You have to tell them you're going to another country, and they actually have to vet that country to make sure you're good to go, because you don't want to go into a country where they're like anti-US military, because once they find that out, you're kind of in bad shape. But does it prevent me? Not at all. I just have to make sure the proper people know, and I can travel outside the United States.
Okay. I have a live question from Colton. Where were your deployments? Afghanistan, Iraq, Kosovo?
So I actually have 15 months in Iraq, 12 months in Afghanistan. I have 9 months in Kuwait. I actually did 5 months on the southwest border. Yes, border of the United States and Mexico. They call that a deployment. And I did a training exercise in Africa as well.
Ooh.
So I was there for 3 weeks. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna put some breaks on, and that's one place I have not heard anybody visiting is Africa. So did you get to explore?
I did. So we were in Zambia, which is in, southeastern Africa. Mm-hmm. So it is actually home of the seventh wonder of the world, the Victoria Falls, I believe it was. They were planning a trip for us to go there, but it was too far away from where we were actually located, so they kind of nixed it. But we did actually get to go out in the city, and I got to visit the bazaar 2 weekends in a row that was there. It was really awesome to meet some of the locals and just kind of talk with them. I actually got to go to a crocodile farm, and saw the black mamba, which is the most poisonous snake in the world. So yes, it was actually really fun. It was very different. Like, we were training with them, so we were actually integrated with them. We had a squad of our people and a squad of their people, and they went and did their training. So we learned just as much as they did.
And that was all the Army dime. Your hotel, your food, your travel expense, and then you probably got a little bit extra money just for not necessarily moving, but being relocated for a short amount of time to that area. TDY?
TDY, it was about $200, but we went to the bazaar, so everybody's money was gone, so didn't really go a long way.
I was in Africa.
Yeah, if you're in Africa, you get some souvenirs while you're there.
Yeah, but next time you're in Africa, you got to hit me up so I can come over and, I don't know, do something. That's on my bucket list. I got to go to Africa before I get out of the military. Hopefully the military could send me somewhere cool and somewhere I have not been, like Africa. That'd be you
can maybe go to Egypt. They do have Egypt possibly open for you.
Hold on again. Come on in. I'm just doing a live interview, so Give me a second. I got somebody coming in the door, but that's okay.
You want to join?
I know, joy, right? Yay! So I'm going to finish up with some comments that we had earlier in the week. So bear with me. I'm going to be looking at my screen, not ignoring you.
Okay.
So we had a question earlier saying, what is the best thing about being where you're at in your MOS currently, and would you change anything of it?
The best thing in my MOS currently?
Correct. Best or best thing of your job. If you want to.
I would say I am actually watching us grow as a branch. So I've seen the transition from us starting to being in the battalions to now being in a platoon size element to us moving schoolhouses. So it's a lot of change, and I feel like I am a part of that change and trying to shape what the future is going to be in this career field as well.
Okay. If you did not join the Army, what do you think you would be doing in life?
I actually think I'd probably be working for the state of Idaho. So, like I said, I was doing civil engineering before I joined the military. So I was already talking to a couple individuals that worked for the state of Idaho. So I kind of figured I would try to apply there and get on with them. So I have a feeling I'd be doing that, but probably doing something in civil engineering.
That, I mean, that's a good ambition to do versus, working at a smaller scale. At least you had a plan, a backup plan. That's great. Being in the service for so long, what keeps you coming into work each day?
I would say the people. I've met a lot of different people, a lot of interesting people. I mean, you included, yes. So it's kind of amazing to meet the different people from a different backgrounds, different parts of the United States. And I mean, like, you're from California. It's like, hey, like, what's in California? And then, hey, do you know this person? Like, you just meet so many different people and their personalities, and like, you would be amazed at how much you have in common with that person standing next to you that is from all the way across the country. Mm-hmm. And some of their mindset as well is, I mean, you could be in the crappiest place, crappiest duty station, but you have those people you can fall back on, those friends that you didn't realize you had. And honestly, after a while, the Army gets small. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have friends that you make at one duty station, they all leave, and now all of a sudden that person that you knew at that first duty station, the person at your third duty station knew them at their first. I mean, it's crazy how much you know stuff. And it's like,
networking is going to get you everywhere.
Oh, definitely. I've met people that I'm like, wait, you knew, how do you know that? It's almost like on the Facebook friends, and you're kind of looking at them like, how do you know this person? And then you find out the backstory and you're like, wow, yep, we know the same people. So now you have that in common with that person that you have, like, you never talked to them in your entire life. Now you have something in common with them. So it's really the people that have brought me back that why I enjoy it so much.
And I would have to say, on a personal note, being from California, not really traveling outside of my state or city, going into the military, it opens your perspective on how other people are treated to one another, how their background was growing up, why they see their views in a certain way. You kind of open it up and you look at both sides of, the argument or the understanding of what makes who they are. So I have opened up and grown from those experiences, meeting people from different cultures, different backgrounds of different ethnic groups. So and it just makes me appreciate more from where I grew up from. So Korea was scary, but I've learned so much. I'm just like a little white girl from California to be like, surf's up, dude. And I'm going over to a foreign country where I don't speak the language, and they're so respectful to their elders. Not saying that I'm not respectful for mine, but I just don't want to offend them.
Yes.
With my stupidity of being uneducated of the world. So
yes. I mean, you pick up and you learn pretty quick of different cultures and backgrounds, because I went straight to Hawaii, and very different from Idaho, from where I'm from, you know, so it's a lot of differences that you get to see, and like you just open your eyes to the world, and it's amazing to see, actually.
So speaking of the world, I have a live question from Amber. It's a two-part question, so bear with me.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about moving back to Idaho?
I have, but I would not want to move back to my hometown just because I've seen so much, I've been so much around. I think I've grown a lot as a person and as an individual. I don't really see myself going back to my hometown. If I do, it'd probably be like another town, possibly around there, but even career-wise, I don't see a lot of potential for me and my skill set and what I do have back in my hometown. And I mean, I love my friends and family back home, don't get me wrong. And I wish I could take them with me everywhere I went, just to explore the United States and just to go with me. But as for me going back there, I don't really see it. I mean, stuff could happen. I could wind up back there, but I just don't personally see it.
Okay. Before I caveat on the second question, I do have to caveat on yours. So about networking and knowing people from all over the military spectrum, I could call you up in 10 years from now, if we were still in. I'm retiring in 5. Let's say 10 years from now we're still in, right? I could say, hey, I'm in town. Can I crash at your house? And 10 out of 10 times, if you're home, you'll be like, my spare bedroom, my couch, it's available. My key will be underneath the carpet. Hey, my house is your house. And when you make those connections, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's this month, next month, a year from now, or 10 years from now, your door is always open. And that's with a lot of people that you make these connections with. And that's what makes us a strong Army family.
Yes, it does, definitely.
So I just want to let everybody know that, you know, we might not talk again for another 5 years, but when I pick up, I'll be like, hey, I need help. Can you help me with X, Y, and Z? Or, hey, I'm in town. I want to see you. Let me crash at your place. So that's a plus. I don't see that anywhere else in the civilian sector.
No, definitely not.
That was a crazy caveat, but let me go back to the live questions. Amber again asked, what is your end goal rank?
My end goal rank? I would actually.
I messed up that question. What is your goal and end rank? Let me rephrase that question. Sorry.
The goal and end rank. Well, right now, if I had my way, I would want to see at least CW3 minimum. There is actually a position I want to have as a CW3. It is actually slotted for a CW4, but you can work as a CW3 doing it. So it's actually a Human Resources Command at Fort Knox. So a lot of people are like, why? And I just want to see how the Army and how they put people where they put people. And I know it's very strange. So I would say at the minimum a CW3. I would actually be very happy if I retired as that. I wouldn't mind being a CW5, but at minimum a CW3.
Well, Fort Knox, if you're watching this video, hook up Miss Boyle and let her work for you. She requested it. So coming to you live in person from the horse's mouth, she wants to work for you. So if you have a spot open, we'll make it happen. I'll call Sergeant First Class Waters and get you down there.
Oh boy, what did I just get myself into, right?
I make things happen. You come to me, you have questions, we'll make it happen. If not, I'll give you an answer why I can't. But,
yes.
All right, 2 more questions and I'll let you go. I know your time is very valuable and I do appreciate you spending your time with me and our audience. So I think I actually hit them all. I might have to pull that back. All right, here's one. I'm sorry. What advice would you give a new young private or lieutenant or one officer coming into the service for this job?
For this job?
Mm-hmm. Or in general, you can do both.
I would say, as much as I've heard this term, it's, be flexible. it's, one term you can actually go back to time and time again. And I mean, if you hear it too much, you kind of get tired of it, but you can actually go back to it pretty quick. Be flexible with it. The technology is ever changing, but as with funding in the military, you just kind of got to be patient as well. So patience is key because, like I said, this MOS came back in 2009 and we're in 2020 and we're still trying to get equipment. So, I mean, that's 11 years in the making and they're still working and developing what they can, but you can actually be a part of the change that's coming to this career field. So I'd say be patient, be a little bit flexible, and learn what you can. Do what you can, go to the schooling and get that education in so you can, further yourself in the long run.
All right. So, do you think you can go for your master's degree?
So I have toyed with the idea. I keep saying no, but I've actually kind of started toying with the idea of going for a master's. I'm actually starting to look more into credentialing than I am a master's at this point in time. Give me a couple years and I most likely will sign up for a master's. But the Army has this really cool program. It's called COOL. It's credentialing online.
Yep.
So with that, I can actually go on there and they actually do take tuition assistance. So now I can
money. So it's one or the other.
So they even have credentialing assistance. So it's a new type of tuition assistance, but it's for credentials. So the Army is barely starting this. I believe it's about a year old now. So I can go in and start getting credentials for different IT programs like A+, Net+. And it's actually a very neat website. You can go on there and find your job title, your MOS, go in there, and they will actually tell you which ones are good for your job and which ones are high demand, low demand, and if tuition or credentialing assistance covers it. So I think that's more what I'm going to lean towards in the next couple years, and then maybe eventually get to a master's, but right now I'm kind of schooled out.
Hey, but you have time and you can knock it out. You're a very intelligent person. You're always a pleasure to talk to and help problem solve and troubleshoot other problems that we have in the brigade. So very, very knowledgeable young lady you are.
Thank you.
I think, wait, are you older than me? No, I'm older than you.
You're older than me by about 3 months. So
okay, I keep forgetting.
I'm still a young kid.
That's right. You're in April. I'm in January. I forget.
But I'm a kid at heart, so I mean, it's there.
The height that throws me off. Your height,
I haven't had an issue with my height, so I'll just keep it at that.
Okay, I'll let it off. I'm not there, so it's a public forum. I can't really, gig you too much. But all right, This is your last chance. Anybody else have any other questions for Miss Boyle before we ask her nicely to go enjoy the rest of her day?
Nothing.
All right. So, but anyways, to our viewers, if you guys are rewatching this video, put #rewatch. If you're watching it live, hit #live so we know who's doing what. And if you do come across this video and you do have a question, we do monitor the platform, so we will eventually get to your questions. If you and Facebook, you have the number to our office, you have the number to our cells, and if you're in California, come down and say hi to us. You don't have to be in our state to get this information. So again, Ms. Boyle, I really appreciate your time for joining us for the Soldier of Hour. Real quick, who do you know that has an awesome story to tell of their military career?
There's a lot of people.
Right,
everybody has their own story, and that's the awesome part. Everybody's story is different, so.
Right. So next week, we're going to be interviewing a gentleman that his job is EOD. So it'll be exciting. I can't wait. So, but again, I just keep on running into intelligent people with awesome careers that I just want to know more of. So, ma'am, thank you so much for joining me for this hour. Have a safe, wonderful day. It's don't drown with that Louisiana weather. Be safe. And you have my cell phone number, so please give me a call if is there anything I can help you with. Again, you guys, like I like to say, be safe, be smart, be in the right uniform, be at the right place, and at the right time.
Yep.
I will talk to you all next week.
All right.
Catch you
Thank
guys
you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.